All right, recording. Alrighty. Hey everybody, welcome back. 3 times in one run. Rock bounce onto a grind. Welcome back to Video Game Therapy. I'll be your player 1, Marker mobkinz78 as always. It's currently 12:10 a.m. on Saturday, the day this is supposed to go up. Man, I have had things that could make a VGT, but I just haven't sat down to do them. One thing is just the absolute nightmare that has been attempting to schedule everything. It's wild. I'm doing about 20 hours of tutoring a week right now, and it's drop-in tutoring, which means I'm sitting in a Zoom room or a physical room, hopefully soon, for a certain number of hours every day. And people can come in if they want help, and this week no one has shown up to hours. I've gotten paid to sit around doing nothing, but the problem with that is I have gotten paid to sit around doing nothing. I haven't set aside things to do in case people don't show up. So I need to kind of find something where I don't have to do it. I shouldn't be saying, okay, do homework while I can't rely on a tutoring block to do homework, because then if people show up, then I don't get to do that homework, right? Don't get to meet the due date. I could always get ahead, but there are other things that I could commit that time to. And in a way, I already know that what it's going to be. Leak code, more or less, for some of them, but I'll get to that in a moment. Another thing so I just recorded my language learning log very late, I know. I'm going to record my language learning log as well, and in the last 10 or so days alone, the concept of learning a language as an adult has come up multiple times, and every time it's made me frustrated. If you don't know, I'm studying linguistics, and I want to do research am most fascinated by semantic variation across languages, which is effectively saying the acquisition of semantic variation, which is just saying how do we learn different terms in different languages. If I say the concept to think is penser in French, can we ever understand the concept that is penser? Like, is it perhaps it means to be pensive as opposed to think? There is a subtle nuance there, and if you're a native speaker of English, perhaps you'll understand that nuance. Anyway, that's kind of not relevant, but this has led me to love exploring second languages. I've been learning Japanese for about 3 or so months, and over the past week, I have these at least an hour to an hour and a half blocks set aside. That's unfortunate. And I've actually picked up quite a bit of Japanese. Now, obviously, I'm not fluent, but I can feel myself making progress. And so here's our little conundrum, right? These conversations that I've had with people, it comes up that, there's no point in trying to learn a language now as an adult, because kids are better at it. It's easier for kids, and they're not wrong. But the problem is they've stopped reading. People will look up, I don't know, how to learn a second language or whatever, and it'll become, I'm not a kid anymore. I can't learn a language. Kids have the advantage of neuroplasticity. If you follow the theories of generative grammar and the language acquisition device, if you will, past the age of about 13, that doesn't function as well. Kids can do things, as I learned in my first language acquisition class, very well. They are practically sponges for language, so on and so forth. But the problem is, as adults, we're not going to try and replicate this. We can't replicate this. One of the big advantages that kids have that adults will never have is that they don't think in a language yet. As I learned to think as a kid, did little imaginary games with myself, it was all in English, right? But the thing is, not only was I surrounded by English 24/7, speaking teachers, teachers speaking it, adults speaking, whatever, but I was thinking in English, and I still think in English. Listen to music in English. And, even if adults could move to a country, force themselves to speak a certain language, right? You would have to also force yourself to think in your second language. Now, this gets into immersion. Super important. Blah, 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 blah. But my point here is not immersion. My point here is that people say kids are better and therefore, or it's easier for kids and therefore I no longer have the ability as an adult. And I'm the epitome of average, right? Just your average guy learning like Japanese. Love learning languages. It's fun. And I aim to learn a lot more. And if, all it comes down to, all it comes down to is committing to it. Now, I understand that not everyone has an hour to 2 hours a day to commit to learning a language. It's just not that much of a priority for everybody. For many people, even. But people don't want to admit that. They would rather find the excuse. And if you can look at the literature, my favorite example at the moment is that kids can make virtually every sound when they're babies, and within months, they narrow that down to their native languages, the one that they're surrounded by. But that doesn't mean as adults we suddenly lose the ability to pronounce those things. We simply have to learn the anatomy, where the tongue is placed, how the throat moves. And just like learning to lift a weight or something, you have to practice that. Roll your R in French. It's different. Vent. And anyway, I'm getting too much into this linguistics part of this rant. But, I don't know, on one hand, it's something like if someone believes in flat earth. Like, it's just ridiculous. And, this is something a friend said to me the other day when I was kind of giving this rant. It's one thing if someone's opinion is, like, just scientifically wrong. Because then you say, okay, I'm not going to engage with this person. I'm not going to deal with someone who believes the earth is flat. But with this language thing, with these conversations, I kind of just stepped back. I said a few things and I was like, okay, I'm going to go off on this person. Nothing personal, just the world and how people advertise language is easier for kids. And again, it is, but it's not impossible for adults. Far from it, in fact. Far, far from it. What was that achievement? Was it? I don't quite remember. Darn. Anyway, yeah, and it's, a part of me is just like, it not hurts. It's painful to hear because people suddenly will discount the ability to learn a language so quickly. So quickly. I can't learn it, right? And I just want to be like, no, you can. You can learn it. And here's why. Here's, 50 million reasons why you can learn it. Well, right to grind, though. But, no matter how much you can't just change someone's opinion, right? The only reason I think this is because of linguistic studies. People in linguistics would probably argue that, that adults can't learn language. In a sense, you'll never have the same understanding as a kid, but you can still learn the language and speak it to a comprehensible degree. And it really bugs me, I suppose, when, people take an excuse and run with it. I'm sure I still do it, and I don't even realize it. The whole thing about I don't have time. Technically, you always have time, but you can't make the time. For example, I had to drop art from my schedule to make time for more tutoring hours and make sure I could fit in Japanese. Now, I want to do art over the weekends. This is only for the weekdays. I originally had 2 blocks, Monday and Thursday, but I just, in theory, I have time for art. I just don't want to drop something else to make time for it. And, maybe this is always what people mean, but I've watched no TV this last week, pretty much, except for finishing like 2 episodes of Anohana. And, as someone who used to watch a lot of TV, I'm getting a lot more done. Anyway, that's sort of a hot take. I don't know. There's just something I wanted to get off my chest. It's tough when people discount themselves and they believe something. I don't know, because again, you know, they're not, people aren't wrong in saying that, you know, oh, if you're, you know, if you have a young kid, they'll appreciate it later on in life when you teach them another language. But don't give up on yourself first, you know. The simplest thing is just, you know, when I'm 30, I'm gonna wish I started learning Japanese when I was 21, and hey, here I am. I'm 21 now, and I started wishing I got more serious about Russian 5 years ago. Yeah. What was the first thing that I mentioned in this VGT? Totally forget. Because I feel like I had something else I wanted to talk about during it. And then I just went off about language learning. Oh yeah, my schedule. Right? I've been talking a lot today, so we are drinking some water. Make sure you're hydrating if you're listening or whatever. I guess I'll just talk about being busy or whatever. Was that? It doesn't feel like it, because this just sounds like me attempting to flex my schedule or something. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't mean to, but just everything being scheduled at the same time was just so stressful. And that's, you know, I never got a chance to sit down and record the VGT because I never had the right energy. But okay, well, I just lost my train of thought, so we're gonna just wrap it up there. I guess I don't know. Beliefs are hard, especially when they're backed. Bro, it is 12:30. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up. Lost my train of thought. Somehow people are, yeah. These just conversations have just made me realize that, like, if I ever, you know, feel like I have the evidence to back an idea, then it's worth thinking. Maybe I stopped reading. Maybe there's more to read. Whatever it might be. You know, don't read because you think you found the end. You learn that children learn languages easier. Keep reading, because you will find the literature to support that you still can. And there are ideas that I'm sure I, you know, limit myself to, but I stopped reading. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. Food for thought. Thanks for watching and or listening. But as always, don't forget to stay awesome. They have Japanese. This is not Japanese, never mind. This is Japanese. See, I know this because this is the thing for sun, book, Nihon, and then this is the kanji for language. That is so sick. Anyway, see you guys later.